Struggling with balancing making new friends all while being successful in the classroom. In this presentation, we recorded 2 interviews and accessed valuable sources regarding our topic, struggling with balancing making new friends all while being successful in the classroom. The first interview was with a fellow student here at UNCW. The questions asked pertained to how she adjusted to college and making new friends. The second interview was with Ryan Sinnott, an academic and athletic advisor. The questions asked related to ways students can become successful in the classroom and prevent struggles. The sources provided at the end of this presentation include various options for students to prevent struggles, whether that is on or off campus. The next few slides will be the interviews that we recorded for this presentation.
Hello, my name is Caroline Wynn, and I am from Williamston, North Carolina.
Okay. What was your biggest struggle with making new friends in college?
So my biggest struggle with making new friends in college would probably have to be just moving 2.5 hours away from home, not knowing anybody here. So I had to make all new friends, meet new people, not knowing anything about this town. But over time, it definitely
Got better?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so what did the first couple of days and the first couple of weeks look like for you when it came to making friends and what that looked like?
So the first few days, I was definitely very nervous making new friends, but I think I got more comfortable as time went on being here. The first few days were not lonely, but I had my roommate, so it was just me and her in a lot of different situations, going to eat, just stuff like that. But over time, I just did develop more friends, whether it be from seeing them in class or something like that. So I would just say hey, and maybe get food with them at the dining hall or something like that.
So further down the road, did you struggle more, or now looking back, did you struggle more making friends in the beginning or being successful with college classes and how, adjusting to the newness of college classes and how they were more difficult than high school courses?
It was definitely more difficult, especially with biology. That was my hardest one I really had to adjust to. I had to basically teach myself, and that was something I definitely didn't have to do in high school. But I have made friends in that class who have just been a helper throughout it, and just support. I guess we support each other throughout the class and lab, and we've just made a little close connection, and we study together, and that was really nice.
So that kind of correlates. Struggling in classes did help you make some new friends.
Yes, definitely. Everybody relates because that class is really hard. So it was a struggle, but we're getting through it.
Yeah. Okay, what was the best way you found personally to make new friends in college?
The best way I found to make new friends would probably be going to the first few weeks of just events, like RA events in the residence halls. They were really great at just making new friends and just meeting new people. I feel like I met 10 people every time, 10 new people every time I went to a different event or the first Friday event. Overflow has helped me a lot. Port City Community Church has been a really big helper throughout my college experience so far, and that is where I've made most of my friends.
Gotcha. So when did you find yourself the most lonely?
It would probably be when around nighttime. So everybody's back in their dorms after you eat supper, and I don't know, you just take a shower, you just get in bed, you're like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I mean, you call your family back home or call somebody, one of your loved ones, but that was probably the time when I was most lonely here so far.
All right, and what clubs or organizations did you find that helped you make new friends, and how did you hear about those specific clubs or organizations?
So the first club I got involved with was, or organization would be Port City Community Church. Their Overflow every Tuesday night. I'm a part of the host team, and it has just been the best experience ever. I love the community. I love the atmosphere. I love learning new things, and it's just, I've met some of my best friends through Overflow. Another club I am interested in, or I have been involved in, is club volleyball. So I started that a few weeks ago, and it's pretty fun so far. I've enjoyed it, and it's just been fun just knowing new people and playing volleyball is something I love to do, and just having a good time while doing it about once a week.
All right. And did you rely on your roommate a lot the first couple of weeks, or how did that dynamic work between you two?
So I love my roommate. It really worked out good that we're literally so similar, and she's just really, really great to be around. I feel like we're the same person. We're very similar, and we are both like clean. We both take care of our stuff, so like we just get along really good. So we definitely did rely on each other a lot, I would have to say. Like we went to eat at the dining hall, whether it be like that or go find classes together. The day before classes started, it was just, or if I needed to go to the grocery store, she would always ride with me. So I definitely did rely on her a lot.
Yeah.
I really, it was really nice having a friend just to live with me, kind of, because I've never had that experience. So it was really fun just to have like a built-in friend living with me. I had a good experience with that.
Well, last question, what would be your advice as you've the end of the first semester is coming to a close and you've kind of built some of those solid friendships so far? What would be your advice for future freshmen who are scared out of their mind, who are going to be coming in the fall?
Some advice I would probably give would be to go to those events at the beginning of the semester and throughout the year. Whether it just be like the RA events or giving out cookies or making cookies, like stress relievers, something like that. Those really help me find good friends. I definitely recommend going to Overflow too on Tuesday nights. That is just the best thing, and it's the best atmosphere I could ever imagine. Like, it's just the best thing ever. Everybody's so friendly, and it really gets you out of your comfort zone to meet new people, lasting relationships with lots of people. So I would definitely recommend going to like RA events, basketball games, volleyball games, just going with your roommate or a friend, getting involved really.
Yeah.
Between the two, what do you see students struggle with the most? Making new friends in college or being successful in classes? And why do you think that's the case?
So I think obviously the transition to college in terms of the social aspect, there's always those struggles, but I think at the end of the day, adjusting and being successful in classes at the college level is a lot more challenging, just because certain students come from certain educational backgrounds that may not fully prepare them to be successful at UNCW. So certain schools, I've had students here who they went to schools that never had like final exams. So they have no idea how to go through the final exam process of, okay, breaking down when I need to study while still balancing their final projects and balancing their final papers as well. I think the other thing too is just there's so many different classes that you can take at UNCW, so that even if you've taken X, Y, and Z classes in high school, they may not have prepared you the best for classes at UNCW, especially our university studies classes. Like if you get put into an international studies class and you've never really talked about international politics or anything like that, then there might be a struggle to understand the concepts that are being discussed in that class and being able to conceptualize them in the papers and projects that you're doing in that class. And I think that goes all the way through any sort of class. Even the basic classes like math, some students haven't taken a certain math class during their senior year, so then they've had a year off of math and they're not fully prepared to enter even like college algebra or calculus or pre-calc. They're just not as prepared as they could be. Whereas you're always making social interactions with people, so it's a lot more easy to make friends, even if it's difficult at times, than it is to be immediately successful within your classes here.
Nice. What outside forces do you think contribute to how students perform in the classroom? Are there positive and negative influences?
Yeah, I think interestingly enough, going back to the first question, I think your sort of like social circle is very indicative of how you're going to do academically, because if you have a group of friends that no one really takes academics seriously, then you're not really going to prioritize, okay, I need to study for this test, just because you won't see anybody else in your friend group really studying for any tests, doing any of their work, things like that. But if you have a friend group who is very high achieving in the classroom, you're going to see them doing their homework on a nightly basis. You're going to see them studying for exams 4 days in advance. So I think social influences have a big sort of sway on how you're going to do academically. Other factors, I think just the normal sort of adjusting to college and being away from family and not having that structure that you may have had in your family household in high school and middle school, etc. Here you kind of have to tell yourself to do things. You're not having your parents ask you after dinner, hey, have you done all your homework, or things like that. So there's that, certain students lack that sort of self-motivation to be able to get up from the cafeteria and just go to the library and do their work, because they just don't want to do it. But if they had somebody telling them to do it, just like they had at home in high school, it'd be a lot easier for them. So that's why I think going back to that friend structure and that friend circle, I think if you have friends doing work, that sort of promotes that self-determination of, okay, I need to be just as high achieving as my friends.
What year do you see students adjusting to the workload of college best?
I think probably sophomore year. I think freshman year is a lot of transitional sort of classes where, like, English 201 and 101, it's just kind of preparing you for college reading and writing and making sure you understand the necessary sort of structure on how you need to be writing your papers and reading and all of that sort of stuff at the college level. But sophomore year, I think, is where you really start to get into your major specific classes, and that's where I typically see things ramp up for students. So they could have been great in their university studies classes just because there's such a plethora of university studies classes that it can be easy to find 5 easy ones each semester. You also have to think freshman year, you're only really taking, at least the way we structure it in this office, you're really only taking 4 true classes a semester, because first semester, you're typically taking your UNI class, and nothing against UNI class, but that's a little bit lighter in terms of, or a little less dense, I'd say. It could still have the same workload, but it's a little less dense. And then second semester too, or even if you add it in the fall with UNI, you have your WPA. So just there, those are 2 out of your 10 classes that aren't incredibly dense classes your freshman year. So I think the workload in general in sophomore year of just taking a full load of 5 classes, as well as those major specific classes that are a lot more dense, are going to require students to be a lot more disciplined in their studies and be able to be successful.
What are some in-class options for a student to use in order to become more successful in the classroom?
So I think one is always good to have just a buddy in the class, just in case you miss a class or anything like that, or if you ever have to do partner projects, picking up on somebody who's reliable in that class, who's always attending class, who's always taking notes, always having that person that if you're confused about something but you don't want to go to your professor because you don't feel comfortable or whatever the other reason may be, you still have that in-class resource to have. And then obviously you have your TAs that have been through those classes before and kind of know how a professor might structure their class, especially when it comes to exams, so they can be helpful when preparing for exams. And then I think the biggest resource that you have in the classroom is the professor themselves. So if they're offering to stay after class and ask and hear questions or anything like that, you should be taking advantage of that. Even if, especially when it's a big lecture class of anywhere over, I think, 50 people, you should be talking to your professor at least once a month in person, just so they have a face to the name, they know who you are, And it's not just they're just putting in grades for some name that they don't even recognize in Canvas. And then I guess pseudo in the classroom is office hours as well, of just going to office hours when you have questions, developing that relationship with your professors and instructors, because I think at the end of the day, the best grades are normally cultivated from students who have the best or who have good relationships with their professors. I think those are when you see students become as successful as they can be in that class.
What are some on-campus options for a student to use in order to become more successful in the classroom?
I think biggest one, University Learning Center, just being able to, for a lot of the sciences and a lot of the maths, there's a ton of tutoring opportunities to take advantage of at the University Learning Center. So just whether it be drop-in hours when you just are struggling with one unit, or if you're consistently struggling with that entire class, you can set up weekly tutoring to be able to start hammering down some of the concepts that you may not be getting when you're going through it in the class. They also, obviously there's just supplemental instruction that can be through ULC, but it could also just be set up by department. So being able to take advantage of those opportunities with those TAs that I mentioned earlier. And those are typically, I see them being most beneficial the closer it is to the exam, just because that's when it's almost like it's reviewing a study guide at that point. TAs do a really good job of setting up supplemental instruction, speaking with the professors to understand what concepts need to be known by the students. And then other than that, I think utilizing like your ability in whatever way it may be to talk to upperclassmen on campus. So if it's using an RA, for you as a student athlete, being able to talk to your upperclassmen on your team, those are kids who have gone through some of these classes before and know, okay, this is what I had to do to be successful in this class. Maybe it'll help you in the same way. So those are also really good outside of the classroom resources for you to utilize.
What are some off-campus options for a student to use in order to become more successful in the classroom?
I think the biggest part for this doesn't really have to do too much with academics, but it relates to academics in the sense of like you need to be able to disconnect from the academic part of your life in college, whether it be at UNCW or somewhere else. So I think taking advantage of all the extracurricular opportunities that are offered within Wilmington and within the greater Wilmington area, just to be able to relax on a weekend or on a Friday night, decompress, and be able to feel re-energized to attack the next week. I think a big part of it is too, many kids, and I think rightfully so, like need to have a certain amount of social interaction fulfilled. So if you're not getting that on a weekly basis just in the classroom, being able to get outside the classroom, do something with your floor mates or whatever, or with your roommate, whatever the case may be, just to be able to kind of get away from the campus a little bit and be able to reset themselves so that they're ready to attack the next week and whatever that may bring.
And what is some advice you can give to future freshmen to prevent classroom struggles?
I think going back to one of my previous answers is just finding that self-determination, whatever that case may be, whether it be wanting to be or being a first generation student, wanting to be the first student or first person in your family to not only go to college, but then successfully complete college, or just saying, hey, I want to earn a 3.5 this semester. Whatever that self-determination is and whatever it looks like for each student, I think the earlier a student finds that in their life, the more successful they'll be in the classroom, because it's not going to feel so much of a burden when somebody else is telling you what to do. You're telling yourself to do it, and it doesn't feel as much of a burden. I think that, along with just the time management of things and being able to prioritize, okay, I have this project to do on Monday, or that's due on Monday. I probably shouldn't do too much this weekend in terms of going out or anything like that, because I need to make sure that I complete the project, review it, and then submit it on time. So just finding that ability to prioritize things and understand the importance of academics and weighing that to some of the like the social distractions that may be prevalent within any university or college. But I think those two things in terms of prioritization and self-determination will help any student find success whenever they enter college.
All the sources used for this presentation talk about tips for college students when it comes to balancing their academic, extracurricular activities, and social lives. Exposed magazine encouraged students to make a choice on which activities to drop in order to make balancing everything easier, to work on prioritizing their time for certain things while also leaving time in their day to relax, exercise, hang out with friends, etc., to eat healthy and exercise regularly, to be realistic, and to seek help when needed. Brooke Murphy, a student at the University of Arkansas, wrote an article telling students that they can balance their academic and social lives if they prioritize the right things, stay organized, manage their time well, are proactive, and have the ability to say no to certain activities. The JED Foundation encourages students to prioritize their schoolwork since it's why they're at college in the first place, as well as join clubs and school organizations because it's a great way to meet people and make friends. Based on the interviews and resources, the best way to be able to make new friends is to step outside your comfort zone like Caroline did and get involved. UCW offers so many ways for students to get involved, such as the events the first week of school, the clubs, and even the intramural sport teams. Based on the interviews with Ryan Sinot, the best way to be successful in the classroom is to take advantage of tutors, study help from your professors, etc. You should not be afraid to ask questions and stay later after class. You can also utilize upperclassmen who have been where you are and always try to surround yourself with people who are motivated and will encourage you to do your work.